Good morning, Mike says Marco in Swindon. You literally couldn't make this up. Reform have always said they would cut foreign aid and increase defence spending. Keir Starmer said just 3 days ago that Reform's right-wing policies are dangerous. Keir Starmer said yesterday we are cutting foreign aid and increasing defence spending. Has this absolute fool only just realised this is actually a good idea? God help us all. And Alan in Merseyside says the same thing. He's now copying all the ideas made by Reform in their 2024 contract. It now looks like Starmer is following the Reform UK agenda. Well, is he? I mean, there's some truth to that.
He was asked about it yesterday, actually, whether he's just copying the Reform agenda. Look, Reform came second to Labour in 90-odd seats in the general election. You've got this looming by-election in Runcorn and Helsby after Mike Amesbury was jailed for 10 weeks, which is going to be a real test for Keir Starmer.
Is that going to happen? Is he actually stepping down then?
So it hasn't been confirmed. From the last I heard, he's contesting it. He's going to appeal the sentence.
Yes. Or
it's not going to have those processes. The appeal for the sentence has to go through before there would be a recall petition.
Yes.
It's not an automatic. He's not automatically expelled from being an MP because the sentence was less than a year.
Right.
There's then a recall petition. 10% of voters in Runcorn and Helsby have to vote for a by-election. Once they do that, then there's the by-election. So you would think in a couple of months' time there will undoubtedly be a by-election in Helsby and Runcorn and Helsby. And Reform came second by 14,000 votes, split with the Tories. Question as to what Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative leader, does. Does she just say, OK, we're just going to sit this one out and let Reform and Labour just thrash it out between themselves? But you would expect that Nigel Farage gets the right candidate in place, campaigns hard, that he could win. He could
move the dial. Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, this is the thing. Let's look at some of the other stuff that's going on this morning. Basically, a couple of stories about the BBC. BBC whitewashed the Gaza doc subtitles. This is still stench of bias coming from this war zone, How to Survive a War Zone documentary that went out a week ago Monday and has since been pulled by the BBC. It now turns out that not only have we now found out one of the cameramen actually celebrated the October the 7th massacre, we've also now found out that the main subject of the documentary, the boy Abdullah, I think his name was the son of a Hamas operative. It now turns out that they actually interfered with the translations of some of the things that were said by the people in it, and they mistranslated references to the Jews, omitted the word jihad, which was said by quite a few people, and subtitles in some cases were removed altogether.
This is really serious because this points to the fact that the producers and the team who put this documentary, say documentary, it's not a documentary, is it? It's just propaganda, who put it together knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
So you've got an interviewee who was praising Yahya Sinwar, who of course is the Hamas leader.
Yeah.
Who's killed was.
So they shot him in that house.
Yeah, they got him, didn't they?
Yeah.
Good. For jihad against the Jews was also mistranslated as saying he was. This interview was quoted as saying he was calling for jihad. He was quoted as saying jihad against the Jews, and that was actually mistranslated as he wanted to fight Israeli forces.
Yes.
So they knew exactly what was done, and they decided to. It's a fair accusation. They softened. They tried to soften the subtitles so that it would seem more acceptable.
Which is not only unethical, but completely against every single rule of journalism.
And
you're changing what people say.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry?
So you would think that if there was an honest broker in this, or an honest editor or producer in this, they'd have said, hang on a moment, let's just have a look at this.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, he's saying jihad against you. That sounds like that's extremist material.
Well,
that shouldn't be broadcast by the BBC.
Surely it is. Would you not suggest that might be considered to be terrorism?
Yeah.
Right? So they're actually now propagating terrorism. I think Tim Davies on a very slippery slope here, because in addition, as if that story is not bad enough, and it is bad enough for me, for him to lose his job, the second story this morning is all about the DJ Tim Westwood, Radio 1 DJ. A £3.3 million sterling inquiry published yesterday found that the broadcaster of the BBC missed opportunities during the 2 decades that the DJ worked at the organisation to sort out significant problems that existed in the way that he was behaving around young women and girls. Misconduct, sexual misconduct by Westwood, a large range of factors which ought to have alerted the BBC. It's another scandal, and a scandal too far. I really don't see how Tim Davie can stay in his job.
Well, the thing about Tim Davie, I say you get rid of Tim Davie. I would 100% agree with you, Mark.
Yeah.
Get rid of Tim Davie. The problem, especially with the Israel, that documentary, the Hamas documentary, the problem is that it's endemic. You could get rid of you could get rid of Tim Davie, but you have right through the BBC, you've got people thinking that this is somehow acceptable.
Well, maybe
so
people
they left it up on iPlayer. They wouldn't apologise to start off with.
And their first statement was very much a defensive statement, justifying what they'd done, saying that they were absolutely sure that everything had been done the right way and properly, and there was no question that that they'd done anything wrong. And I mean, this is the thing. Maybe more people have to go as well as a result of that. Maybe people who were involved in producing the documentary have to go. But it seems to me that after every single scandal that we've had, even just since I've been doing this show on breakfast, for just nearly 9 months or so, surely there's enough there at the door of the BBC boss, the Director General, that he has to go.
But I was having a chat with a friend who works at the BBC, and they were saying to me that there's a sort of, when you get to that sort of mid-management level, there's this sort of complacency that they're untouchable. That you can get the, and it was put to me. There was a meeting, and it was after I think it was after the Hugh Edwards. What happened with Hugh Edwards? And there was a meeting where he was invited to this meeting with mid-management, and they turned round. One of them turned round very just smugly and said, Director Generals come and Director Generals go, and it's like, we're untouchable, but you can get rid of Tim Davie, but we're still going to be here.
Right.
We're still going to be really running the show.
Right.
And what needs to happen is you need to be able to get somebody, and it's not going to happen with this government, right? This government is not going to deal with the BBC in the way it needs to be done. Get your claws into the editorial process to find out who was responsible.
Well, isn't that
for
what
happened
Samir Shah's meant to be doing?
And actually, it's cancerous what's happened.
It really is.
This is the British Broadcasting Corporation, and it needs to stop. And the way it stops is that you bring people in with proper oversight. So when you have a documentary like this, they go through it line by line, and they double check the sourcing, and they make sure that it doesn't happen. And if you would, it isn't just a sackable offence that somebody's going, that this is being broadcast. It should be a sackable offence because what should have happened? It should never have been broadcast. Right. A producer should have put it in front of some sort of really high-level editorial board. They should have spotted the fact that the main narrator was the son of a Hamas was a son of a Hamas official. They should have spotted the fact that obviously the translation was completely incorrect, and then they should have sacked the person, and it should never have been broadcast. That would be the right outcome.
Apart from that, it was a great idea, and whoever came up with the idea should probably be fired as well.
Or as I saw one former, and I'm not going to say which one it was because I'm not 100% sure, but one former, senior BBC person talked about it being the right sort of journalism. How on earth is this?
Well, it's not journalism. If you're changing the translation of the words that people are saying in order to make them sound less problematic, shall we say, then that ain't journalism, that's fiction, that is messing about with propaganda, and at the end of the day, that can't possibly be something that the BBC should be proud of or should even be doing. Let's face it, we've got plenty more to do. NHS boss being fired as well. Amanda Pritchard says she's going to leave the health service's top job at the end of March following meetings with Wes Streeting. So he's obviously started to wield the axe. We'll find out what that's all about. We've got yet another Albanian people smuggler who's been allowed to stay in the country thanks to the human rights laws from the ECHR. Much more besides, of course, as well. Mike, it seems, says Mick, the BBC can do whatever they want with no consequences from the government. No surprise there, then. Let's get a voice note from Chris.
Morning, Mike. Morning, Theo. Chris from Epsom. We've got some very good news. Starmer's stepped forward with the right foot. Now let's see if we can continue to put pressure on him. We need to stop that data bill coming through. Have a great day.
Thank you very much indeed. That's one way of looking at it. He has actually bowed to pressure from Donald Trump and possibly from those of us who have been making noises about how wrong he is getting everything. So maybe, just maybe, we're on a bit of a road to recovery. What do you think?